Hello and welcome to the third Grab the Mic Live. Thank you for bearing with us for a few seconds there. We just had a few technical hitches. Maybe Andy can talk about when things go wrong in a bit and how you overcome them and act like the professionals that we are. I'm Vic Elizabeth Turnbull, founder of Mike Media, and we're a podcast production company and training. We do training as well. And we specialise in working with the good eggs, as I like to call them. So podcasters and podcast wannabes from the social impact sector. And the idea behind Grab the Mic Live is to chat to people in the not-for-profit sector and not-for-profit world that are doing cool things with podcasts, to show you what's possible and to inspire you to grab the mic and get podcasting as well, or tickle up the one you've already got. So every month or so, I invite one of my buddies from the not-for-profit podcasting world, and we just have a chat about their podcast. So I'm so happy to have Andy Smith here for Grab the Mic numero 3. He's from Made by Mortals, the community interest company behind the super popular kids podcast Armchair Adventures. Andy, thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, Made by Mortals, what do you guys do?
So Made by Mortals is a not-for-profit, as you say. We're based in Tameside in Greater Manchester, and we are a participatory arts organisation. So participatory arts basically is creating art along with people that are not just professionals, people from different communities. So Made by Mortals create films, live theatre shows, theatre events, and more recently podcasts, obviously. And our tagline is that bring people's experience to life. So through those art forms, we're bringing people's experience to life. We work with professional artists, university researchers, health and social care practitioners, and most importantly, different communities of people who share their lived experience to improve the lives of other people.
And so it's on that theme that Armchair Adventures podcast was born. So for the untrained ear who's maybe never tuned into Armchair Adventures, can you give us a little synopsis?
Yeah, of course. So the Armchair Adventures is a podcast for kids, first and foremost. It's a fun, interactive, sing-along, move-along podcast for 6 to 10-year-old children. But what is unique about it is that it's made by a group of over 65s from our local community. So it's got this real intergenerational quality to it. And that came about because Made by Mortals, when Made by Mortals first started 5 or 6 years ago, we started with a group of older people who made live theatre shows for children. So we would work with professional artists, and from absolute scratch, we would create these live theatre shows, the scripts, the actors' parts, the set, the songs, and then we would go and tour them to local primary schools. It was inspired by a Channel 4 documentary a few years ago where children went into a nursing home, and there was a lot of research done about it, how it improved the well-being of not only the older people, making them more active, getting them more creative and sharing their imagination, but also improved the lives of the young people as well. So yeah, when we set up Made by Mortals, we kind of stole that idea but twisted it so that we created the work with the older people and took the older people into young people's settings. So we were doing that for a few years. We created a few shows. We were touring it around local schools, building a bit of momentum. And then in 2020, obviously the pandemic hit and we couldn't meet to create our work, let alone go and tour it to schools. And these people that we're working with were high on the vulnerability list, if you like, from the government, for shielding and things like that. So there was just not a chance that we could have met up. And so we turned to podcasting like many other people did at that time. But we turned to podcasting. Well, first of all, we wanted to. Our priority was the older people that we've known them for years and years. We see them every single week. Our priority was to make sure that they were healthy, staying connected, and socializing, using Zoom and things like that as best as they could. So we kept the weekly sessions going, just playing music and drama games like we did, albeit on Zoom. Some of the older people didn't have the technology, so we sought funding to equip them with laptops and
Wow.
webcams and microphones, etc. And then some of the older people didn't have the internet also. So for those people, we couldn't provide the internet for them, but what we could do was have a free phone number on our Zoom account, which meant that those people could dial in to the sessions. And so uh, although we couldn't see them, we could hear them, and they could hear other people in the group, and they felt connected just like they did when we were meeting each other face to face. Anyway, after a few weeks with the group, we wanted to still have our purpose of creating work for children. They were isolating as well, homeschooling some of them. It was all up in the air about what was going to happen, obviously. We wanted to provide a high quality arts and cultural experience for them. So we turned to podcasting and came up with this concept of an armchair adventure. And an episode of Armchair Adventures is a journey of the imagination for the listener. So with Connie, who is a fictional character, the protagonist of Armchair Adventures, she's a 15-year-old who lives in her family-run travel agency. And that travel agency specialises in holidays for the over 60s. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, over 60s couldn't go on holiday, but together with Connie, the customers, who are our older people, they said, well, we can't physically go on holiday, but we can go on journeys of the imagination using immersive sound design, interactive storytelling, and sharing our imaginations together. So yeah, that's kind of a potted history of how it came about. And now we've just launched our third series a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's just gone from strength to strength. We're meeting in person now, creating the episodes, which speeds things up a little bit. Pretty much the whole of the first series was devised and recorded online. So yeah, it's been it's quite a journey.
Let's play a little bit of Armchair Adventures, shall we? This is from the most recent episode that's live now on all good podcast players.
Hello, adventurers! We're back. Welcome to the first episode of Series 3 of Armchair Adventures. Remember, we're releasing 2 episodes a month now. Part 1 today, Part 2 in 2 weeks' time. Before we start this episode, we have some massive news. Drum roll, please! We've taken to the skies. Virgin Atlantic called us up and asked if Armchair Adventures could be the first kids podcast to feature in their in-flight entertainment. So now you can go on an adventure with us while you're flying to another adventure in the USA, Africa, Asia, or the Caribbean. How exciting is that? Right then. Well, I suppose we'd better get adventuring.
On an armchair adventure, you can go anywhere you like. On an armchair adventure, imaginations fly.
So a clip there from the beginning of the first episode of the brand new series. And Connie there is the protagonist, as you said, announced some belting news, didn't she? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it has been amazing, the journey of Armchair Adventures. Like I say, it came out of the pandemic. It came out of a necessity to keep our community of older people connected and having that purpose of creating work for children. And after we created a few episodes and learned how to create a podcast, and our podcast is very similar to a radio play as well, because of all of the sound design in it as well. It's not, it really is a theatrical experience when you listen to it. So after we'd kind of got to grips with the production and how long it takes, some children were going into schools for the key workers, but a lot of children were still at home. So we decided to do these big online Zoom parties, online listening parties, if you like, where we had thousands of children from across the country in classrooms or at home, and internationally as well, clicking and listening to Armchair Adventures. So it managed to get a bit of a young person's following fairly quickly. And then with great marketing support, we had we were promoted on BBC Radio, on podcast radio, on Fun Kids Radio, and then last year, as we finished series 2, we found out we were nominated for a British Podcast Award, which we won bronze in, which is absolutely amazing experience to go down to London and be amongst such amazing podcasters, really big production companies. Bear in mind, we're a small not-for-profit organization. I mean, it was amazing. And then to top it all off, this year we got a phone call from Virgin Atlantic, who had heard our podcast and wanted it to be their very first podcast for children as part of their in-flight entertainment package. So we're just really, really proud of everything that it's achieved.
What was it like when you told the older people that of all those things?
Well, they love it. Like, some of them like really get it and listen to podcasts avidly, and some of them like really enjoy making it. Some of them really enjoy the glitz and glamour of it all with the awards as well. But I think what it boils down to is that there's a real pride that they're doing something for younger people. That is their whole purpose of coming to our group. So at the very beginning of this interview, I was talking about bringing people's experience to life. Well, each episode has a lead customer, and that's one of the older people in our group. And what happens in an episode is that that lead older person's main hobby or something that they're really passionate about, that's where you go on the adventure to learn more about that thing, or to go in the best place for that hobby. So for example, we've had a dancing adventure where we learn lots of different dance styles, but the lead customer, who's a lady called Pat, she loves line dancing. So she took everyone to Dollywood in the USA, and we meet Dolly Parton and we all learn a bit of line dancing. And then in that clip that you just played there, that's a poetry adventure, because the lead customer in that episode is Pauline, who is an absolutely amazing wordsmith and poet. So she takes Connie and all the other customers to different poetry lands, and that's and I guess what I'm coming around to is that we're bringing their experience to life, but also teaching kids through the podcast as well, teaching them how to write different poems, the techniques used, or teaching them different dance styles. Or we've done episodes on climate change and recycling and racial equality. So there's always kind of like a learning thread that runs through each episode as well. And that is what the older people are really passionate about, that are making it. So of course they're delighted when we say it's won this award or it's on Virgin Atlantic, but that is kind of like an accolade that shows what they're doing is providing something really good for young people.
That is a really nice segue. I want to play a clip that features some of your older cast. And this is from the episode you just talked about. This is from A Dancing Adventure last season.
Okay.
Oh, wow. This is the perfect place.
Exactly what we said we wanted.
Hey, come on there, Rita. Teach us a move.
Let's all do the funky chicken.
The what?
That sounds silly.
The funky chicken. It's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to dance like a chicken.
Do chickens dance? If they're funky, they do.
Firstly, we bob our heads back and forward like a chicken.
You got that, adventurer? We're bobbing our heads backwards and forwards.
You don't have to make the chicken noises.
It's hard not to.
Now we bend our arms and stick our elbows out and flap them up and down like wings. Fantastic! Well done, everyone. Shall we put it all together to some music?
I'm not sure I've got it.
That's okay, Connor. Just follow us and you'll pick it up. And you, adventurer, ready to be a funky chicken?
Head bob. Flap our wings. Both together. Well done, everyone.
That was fun.
It makes you smile, doesn't it? It's hard to feel down when you're being a funky chicken with your friends.
Did you enjoy it, adventurer? Did it make you smile? What about you, Connor? You've been very quiet.
If I'm honest, Pat, all this makes me feel awkward.
Why?
I want to get lost in the music and just move with it, but I can't. I feel like everyone is looking at me and laughing.
You can find out what happened to Connie. Tune into season 2, episode 5 of Dancing Adventure. That just shows you the talent of the cast that you've got involved, but also Armchair Adventures is really heavily focused on original music, and there's lots of ways that your tiny listeners can interact with the podcast and take part and do it during activity time. So how long does it take you to make each episode?
Oh, it's a good question, really. So we do it in different ways, but it does take a while because of the production in it. So there's I know that part of our ethos as an organization is that the group are the co-creators of it. Everyone is co-creating and co-producing Armchair Adventures. It's not just myself and the writer just writing a script and then they go and read it off. We come up with an idea and adventure. Say, for example, that one, Pat loves dancing, so we're going to go on a dancing adventure. So Pat tells us about her experience of dance and the styles of dance that she loves and the different music, and we experiment with the group, and we have a professional writer in the room at the same time, and that might have a couple of weeks, and then we'll think about like a kind of synopsis of the script and make sure everyone's happy with that. What's the learning? What's the narrative? And then it'll go to a stage of like a first draft script, and we'll think more about how to make it even more participatory for the listener. So as you heard there, there's these little dings, and that's when we want the listener to interact. So sometimes that's really easy. For example, what can you see? What can you see underwater, adventurer? When there's in the underwater adventure, and the listener would shout out what they imagine they could see at that time, inspired by what's going on in the audio. Sometimes it's a bit more movement based. So like that dancing one, they're giving dance moves, or climbing a tree, for example, pretending to climb a tree. Or sometimes it could be a singing one. There's always a song in an Armchair Adventure episode. Like I say, a music theatre is key to our organisation as well. So we create that song with the group as well. So again, that takes a couple of weeks. So you probably, with recording as well, you're probably talking about anything between 8 to 12 weeks.
Wow.
To create an episode. Yeah. So we're trying to get, because one of the challenges that we faced particularly is we used to release one episode a month. because capacity, we're a small organization. You know, I'd love to release an Armchair Adventure once every week, but we've got to take the group with us. It's really important that we do that to the organization. So we have to create stuff so far in advance so that we don't, you know, so that we don't miss a month, basically. And now we've managed to create episodes in a way where they're two-parters. So we're releasing 2 episodes a month now, but it's kind of one episode split into 2 parts, if that makes sense.
And what was why did you make that decision?
Well, mainly because of listener retention, if you like, or listener want, if you know what I mean. Like we have got this community of listeners now. We're having over 50,000. We've had 50,000 listens to our podcast since we started. We average like about 3,000 a month listeners. So we want to give them more. Like they want more, we want to give them more. So it was just finding a balance between what we could achieve as an organization, capacity wise, and the group, because you know they've got to enjoy it. Like if we're just, it's not work for them, it's all voluntary. Do you know what I mean? It's so we have a lot of fun making the episodes as well, and so it's that balance, isn't it, between what your listeners want and what you can actually do and do it well. It's like that's the other thing, that the artistic quality of any of our work, like we strive to have the highest production values, the highest artistic ambition that we can, just because it's participatory arts, just because it's a group of older people from Tameside, doesn't mean that it's fluffy or, you know, it's not good.
Quality.
We're the opposite of that. Like we're saying they and us can produce something that's really, like, can stand on a really good stage along with some of the best podcasts.
And it has done. I mean, what I really like about Armchair Adventures as well is you're playing to your strengths. You're not reinventing the wheel, really. You're a participatory arts organisation with a speciality in musical theatre, and you work with older people. So why don't we smoosh that together and also answer the need in our community and serve children that we've been doing since day dot. So
yeah,
that's some advice for wannabe podcasters from the not-for-profit sector, is play to your strengths.
And it is a tricky one with marketing of podcasts, because, you know, we were new to podcasts anyway, so it's a different product to market a podcast than it is to market a live show or a live theatre show that we've done in the past. And it's particularly challenging to market a podcast that's aimed at children, because I mean, teenagers, okay, they'll have smartphones and stuff, but ours is 6 to 10-year-olds. Most of them won't have a smartphone. They might have a smart speaker at home, but, you know, again, you're relying on the gatekeeper to play the podcast for their child. So that was a real learning curve for us. I mean, at the very beginning, we weren't sure that who we were marketing it to. Was it the older people? Was it the younger people? And then we were pretty quickly, we realized it's got to be marketed to the kids, or it is a podcast for kids, sorry. But then we had this learning that, you know, you've got to market to the gatekeeper before you, not actually the kid, if you know what I mean. That was a real learning curve for us.
And the stuff that's developed now, you haven't done everything at once. So let's talk about, for example, the artwork. When you first started, it was slightly different, and then series 2, we introduced the character of Connie to be like in your face. So we made her into a thing, and then it's developed again in series 3, brand new logo, a new format. Testing other things out. Is that a positive to you? Do you think in podcasting that you can be flexible and adapt and test and learn?
Yeah, and I think also that really fits with Made by Mortals, because
Yeah.
I think like we as an organisation, part maybe it's not for profit sector, but certainly my experience with Made by Mortals is that you really have to be flexible and adaptable, and our team is, and our community are as well. And I think we're really quite good, if I can say that, in terms of like adapting to things quickly and being flexible. So I guess with the kind of, I mean, it's the evolution of any kind of, I was going to say, like, I almost think of it like a TV show, almost, like Armchair Adventures sometimes. That, and if you think of it like that, you know, you do, well, the brand's kind of grown, if you like. So, and you can't have all the answers when you first start, can you? Like, you got to learn as you go, and you've got to be open to learning and changing and adapting and being flexible. And yeah, the logo that we used to have, it was great for when we started because it fit what we thought the purpose and the brand and the marketing of Armchair Adventures would be. But as we've created more and more episodes and done workshops with kids in schools, we test out these. We don't just sit in a dark room and make the decisions on our own. We go out, as I say, everything is co-produced. So we go and do market research with kids. So with these logos, for example, we've got some great partnerships with local schools. So we'll go in with 3 or 4 of the logos that have been designed and say, what do you think? You know Armchair Adventures now. What do you think out of these? And then we ended up with the latest one. So yeah, it's but the designer as well, Gary, he's fantastic. He's got he really gets it. And he gets the sector as well, I think, and that's really important.
I want to pick up on that about the schools thing. So the podcast is not just a podcast, is it? It's got legs. It's manifested and transformed into other things, and other things that are in person as well. Tell us a little bit more about those things.
Yeah, sure. So as I say, before the pandemic, we used to do lots of live theatre shows and schools workshops with that group of older people. And as we started to get back in person and they were vaccinated and felt safe, they were ready to kind of go back and bring Armchair Adventures to life in schools. So we have a great team of musicians and drama facilitators that go into schools with some of the older people, not all of them at the same time, but 5, 6, 7 of them at a time go into primary schools, and we create, well, we do a half-day workshop or an hour's workshop sometimes based on one of the episodes. So we've done some really fun ones about composting. We've done some about the poetry one that you just played earlier, and that's really good. It's great on lots of different levels, that, because the older people love that intergenerational, like I said before, they love that, like, mixing with them. The kids love it. They see Ronnie and Jean and Barry and Rita and Pat and all the guys. They see them as their grandparents. Like, it's so amazing in the schools that it's why we do it, I guess. And then that's helped us actually create some bonus material, so and have the kids' voices in the podcast as well, which I think is another great marketing thing that we've learned. And then so we've kind of brought it to life through workshops in that sense. We've done workshops in libraries as well, and we have done an art installation, an interactive art installation. We kind of tested it out last year, but we're now doing it properly, if you like, in February at Stalybridge Civic Hall. So there's some kind of opportunities for local schools to come, and then there's public opportunities as well. So what that is there's this big space in this Civic Hall where 10 episodes of Armchair Adventures have their own visual art installations. So let's say, for example, the Treetop Adventure was our very first episode. The artist that we've worked with, Rachel, she creates an area which looks like an older person's sitting room. So imagine an armchair, a bookcase, a coffee table, etc. And then the person visiting can sit in that armchair, stick a pair of headphones on and listen to snippets of that episode. But around them, it's not just the armchair and the bookcase. Around them, what that episode is about, say, for example, the treetop one, it's like splurged out with everything treetops and jungle and that you can imagine. So it's as if the podcasters visually come to life while you're sitting there. So there's 10 of these dotted around the civic hall. Children and whoever can kind of make their way around, almost like a museum tour. There'll be little tasks for them to do as well. And then at a certain time in the middle, they're going to experience a live show of Armchair Adventures. So they'll meet Connie, they'll have live musicians there, and they will be in the show as well as kind of like, well, they're the listener in an episode is interactive, as I've said before. So they'll be moving and interacting with the older people and with Connie in that middle bit. So yeah, that's all being devised at the moment, and that's going to happen in February, and then we'll hope to develop that live show further and take it on tour.
Amazing. So cool. And again, that's that evolution of a podcast. It started somewhere, and over the years you've it's grown wings and spread out, but it's not all happened at once. I just want to remind, if you are watching this live stream on Twitter or LinkedIn, please do pop your questions in the comments to Andy, and we will find time to answer those towards the end of the stream. Now, okay, this is all great, but you've created a podcast, amazing, and it's doing dead well, and it's loved by thousands of kids. I mean, today we looked at the charts and it's big in the Netherlands. Like, it's random. But what impact has it had on Made by Mortals?
Well, it's huge. I mean, we never did podcasting before, like 2020. So, and now it's like, well, at the forefront of our organization, we've become to realize the theatrical possibilities of audio. So even in our other programs of work that are unrelated to Armchair Adventures, we're using audio in our live events. So like, we're using the skills from podcasting and the production knowledge and skills into other theatrical immersive events. Yeah, and it's really like I said before, participatory arts. Made by Mortals came about because myself and my fellow director Paul, Paul's a theatre maker, I'm a musician primarily, and we were freelancers for years and years, working on our own on like personal projects, but a lot of the time we worked for some of the big orchestras and opera companies and theatre companies around, and often we would work in their outreach or community or participation departments, they're called. And that's where they take the orchestra into the community to devise something. And myself and Paul met, about, 15, 16 years ago. And we kept being paired up as this theatre maker, composer duo who would go and create work with lots of different communities. And we loved it, absolutely loved it. And we got on like a house on fire. But one of the things that we felt that we were being held back because we didn't have all the say in how much you could spend on the production. That you had our hands tied somewhat, and we also felt that participatory arts wasn't given the value that it ought to be given. So just because it's with a group of older people or just because it's with a group of kids doesn't mean it's it's any less important or any less valued or any less artistic quality than one of the best orchestras or theatre productions when they go and perform. Like, it should be given the best. So we felt that we wanted to challenge what was possible from a project that has participation at its heart. And that's what Armchair Adventures has helped us do, because you can take with audio, obviously, if they don't get the line quite right, you say, all right, do it again. Okay, let's think of it this way. Let's record it again, and we can take our time over it. It's not live performance, so we can get it absolutely right with the older people, and the quality is better. You know what I mean? It's not you've got one take, and that's it for them. So yeah, it's really helped us with that kind of breaking the stigma or the stereotype of what participatory arts is.
And people love it, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And I think, yeah, I mean, especially the kids, especially the older people. I mean, I've got 2 kids myself, and it's good that I get to test it out on them as well sometimes, see what's working. And yeah, and people do love it. It's the story behind it as well. I mean, you go on our website, there's a little video at the bottom of the Armchair Adventures page where you get to meet some of the older people.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's such a joy, isn't it?
It does really pull at the heartstrings, because these older people, Tameside is an area that doesn't get much arts and culture at all. It's the stats on loneliness are shocking. The stats on young people feeling lonely are shocking. And, we're one of a few arts organisations in Tameside. So, like, bringing people together, bringing communities together, bringing generations together through this, I mean, it's just brilliant. And the art form being great as a byproduct of that is really special as well. Yeah, have a look at that video. It's good. It's a good
gorgeous
one.
So finally, last question from me is, if there is not-for-profits watching this video and thinking, that sounds like a great idea, I want to start a podcast, can you tell me some advice or how you got over some of the challenges that you faced?
I'd say do your research in terms of what's out there already.
Big advice. Yeah.
What ideas you can steal or twist. I think the marketing is important, and we weren't really clear on that at the beginning in terms of the direction that we gave. So I think that's another thing. Who is listening to your podcast? Why should they listen? Like, what's the point? Like, what do they get out of it? Who are they that you are marketing to? That I think that's really important as well. And then the other one, I think, and we touched on it before, is that being flexible and adaptable, so that whether that's because of funding or because of the content of your podcast or because of the people that are making it or because what the listeners want, like, just being flexible. And I guess my last bit of advice is, like, podcast is still quite a new art form, so it's hard to know what the possibilities are, but be playful with it, try things out, experiment.
Some great advice there, and absolutely spot on with the audience. That's the number one most important thing in your podcast, isn't it? It's your listener.
Yeah.
Andy Smith, thank you very much for joining me on the latest Grab the Mic live conversation. This whole thing is available to watch again on Mike Media's YouTube channel in a couple of weeks' time. Give me a chance to upload it, but you can watch the previous ones That's the Conversation with Legacy fundraising chat. And also Children's University are up there on Mike Media's YouTube channel right now, as is every episode of Armchair Adventures on Made by Mortals YouTube channel as well. And Armchair Adventures is available everywhere you listen to podcasts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Everywhere, including your smart speaker as well. Let's get that little plug in. You can find out more about what we do at Mike Media by going to our website, mikemedia.co.uk. And next time, which is next week, we will be having Damien Carr he's from the CEO of Mank Spirit Charity, and he's got a fabulous little, they've got a fabulous little podcast called That Great Mank Pod. And what they do that's unique is they don't yabber on about themselves on their podcast. It exists solely to showcase other community groups across Greater Manchester. And he's going to be joining me for the next Grab the Mic Live on Tuesday, the 25th of October, same time, same place next week. And that's part of the Our Tameside Festival. So, Andy, thank you very much. And thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Thank you.